Okay, we're going to get started here. So again, hello and welcome to today's webinar. How do you deliver a seamless shopping experience? Salesfloor, the host of today's webinar, is a technology platform that connects web shoppers with in-store associates who drive their own sales and personalize the customer shopping experience like never before. Salesfloor is rethinking the role of today's in-store sales associate and making every retail sales job a small business opportunity. In today's omnichannel world, Salesfloor believes that retail chains have a unique opportunity to leverage their biggest competitive asset, their people. I'm Joe Keenan, Executive Editor of Total Retail, the retail executive source for content and community. Total Retail offers the latest news and analysis of the retail industry in a variety of channels, including a print magazine, daily e-newsletter, robust website, virtual and in-person events, a podcast channel, in-depth research reports, and more. Joining me today to discuss how omnichannel retailers can better connect consumers' online and offline shopping experiences for a seamless purchase experience are Jason Steiner, Retail Director for Kiehl, an omnichannel retailer of skincare, body, and hair care products. Jason has more than 15 years' experience in the cosmetics industry. In addition to Jason, Oscar Sachs, CEO of Salesfloor, will be offering his expert insights on how retailers can optimize consumers' omnichannel shopping experiences. Oscar has nearly 20 years' experience in the retail technology space and has helped Salesfloor become a valued partner for leading retail organizations such as Saks Fifth Avenue, Lord & Taylor, Bloomingdale's, Ann Taylor, and more. So let's start with talking about the growth of omnichannel shopping. This has become a top priority for retailers and shoppers. Providing customers with a seamless omnichannel experience across channels is priority number one for both retailers and for consumers. The reason why? Consumers are demanding omnichannel. They expect that retailers know them and will provide a consistent, relevant experience no matter the channel they engage a brand in, whether that be online, in-store, or via mobile website or app. With the struggles of traditional brick-and-mortar retailers well documented, many failing to evolve as more consumers go online to shop, leveraging your brick-and-mortar stores and the employees inside of them and leveraging your stores and the employees inside of them as assets in the omnichannel journey is key to future success. Let's talk about Amazon and its influence, as I briefly mentioned, and why omnichannel retailers offer a differentiator versus the online giant. According to a recent study of 46,000 customers of a major U.S. retail company by the Harvard Business Review, 73% of its customers used multiple channels during their shopping journey. In other words, they were omnichannel customers. Only 7% of the customers shopped online only, and only 20% shopped in-store only. In fact, this omnichannel phenomenon is happening inside physical stores as well. According to a recent Google research report, 84% of consumers use their phones inside physical stores, completing various tasks such as researching products, comparing products, and in some cases, even purchasing products from their phones while standing in the aisle of a store. So if the volume of consumers choosing to shop in multiple channels hasn't convinced you of the importance of an omnichannel shopping experience, and that can vary from multiple factors of your business, from inventory to fulfillment and more, then these stats likely will. The omnichannel customers in the Harvard Business Review study spent, on average, 4% more on every shopping occasion in-store and 10% more online than single-channel customers. So these omnichannel customers are proving that they're more valuable than their single-channel counterparts. Furthermore, within 6 months after an omnichannel shopping experience, these customers had logged 23 more repeat shopping trips to the retailer's stores and we're more likely to recommend the brand to family and friends than those who use the single channel. So in addition to them spending more on average, they're also more loyal, so they're coming back and buying more frequently, at least according to this retailer that was studied by the Harvard Business Review. So in an effort to better compete with Amazon, companies are redefining the role of traditional brick-and-mortar stores to be more than just a place to go to purchase goods. Technologies like Salesfloor, which aid in the sharing of data to create a single view of the customer, which therefore enables retailers to better serve their customers across all channels. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Oscar to get us started.
Great, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you for moderating this webinar. And I'd also like to thank Jason Steiner for being a great partner at Kiehl's. That's always how we advance the fastest, is when we have a good partnership with our retailers. So most of this webinar will be Jason speaking about what was implemented in Kiehl's. Very specifically, you'll get to see what they did and the benefits of that. I'm just going to take a minute or two to share with you what we're seeing in the marketplace across all the retail verticals. Whether you're in home improvement, beauty, or apparel, you'll see some common elements that we're hearing. The first is everybody's trying to figure out, how do we better serve this omni-channel customer? What is an omni-channel sales associate? Up until now, that has different meanings. A lot of people think it's someone in store who takes care of in-store pickup, but we have a different view, and so did Kiehl's, of what an omni-channel sales associate is in today's world, and you'll get to learn what we feel about that. Lastly, clienteling's been around for over a decade, and it hasn't really taken full effect in the stores, hasn't really been executed properly and seen the benefits that was expected. So we're going to show why we think clienteling hasn't really been executed well, and we're going to be showing how Kiehl's has done it the right way. And obviously, we'll have a chance to talk about measuring ROI. All of our retailers want to make sure that when they're implementing change, there's a way to measure that. So the main thing that we want to challenge everybody is, if omnichannel is so important and you've been focusing on it for so many years to achieve a seamless shopping experience, how is it possible that if I spend as a customer half an hour in store with an associate and they get to learn my needs, they get to give me product recommendations, when I'm undecided, which is the majority of the time, and I leave that store, I have no way to continue that conversation that started in store. I can't ask additional questions. I can get other product recommendations. I can go home, think about it, and then finish my purchase with the person that I started with. That is not a seamless customer experience. The same thing applies when we're all researching online at home, and we just spend half an hour, finding all the different things that are of interest. When we go into the store because we want to touch and feel it, that associate in the store has no clue what I've been looking at. And that's why there's this gap between the knowledge of the associate and the knowledge of the associate and the customer. So that customer is essentially walking into a store and starting from scratch, and the associate doesn't have the benefit of knowing what that customer has been researching and what they've been trying to find. And that's also a disconnected experience. Another opportunity is clienteling. When you think about it, why would a store associate really reach out and engage customers? In the old world, the best that they can hope for if they sent an email to a customer is that one day they'll walk into their store. But most likely what they've done is they created a need, and then the customer, in the comfort of their own home, buys online. So we have to figure out how to solve, which is what we've done. How do you make sure that when an associate is reaching out to customers and that customer buys online, how do you make sure that the store still gets credit for it? Secondly, the associate's role has been limited to just the store. Now, in the old days, the business was only conducted in stores, so that was fine. But as more and more people are interacting online and buying online, how could you exclude your biggest expense on your P&L, which are your people, from a growing number of your customers? So the associate should no longer be limited to the in-store customer. They should be going after the online customer and able to shop with them just as much as in store. And then the last point we want to make is retailers really need to differentiate their online experience. They know that, and everyone's tried over the years to do many different things. But when you think about it, when you look at the template in 2017 of your average e-com site, it's not that much different than the Sears catalog in 1950. It's a list of products and we ship to your home. And as retailers are being forced into commoditization by the Amazons of the world, it is mission critical to really differentiate online as a brand. And what makes that brand so great in store is the people in the store, and they're the same ones who should be leveraged as a key factor in differentiating your online experience. So this is what we're seeing in the marketplace, and now you'll see from Jason Steiner at Kiehl what was implemented and how we're addressing a lot of the problems that we just outlined. Jason?
So thank you, Oscar, for having me, and thank you, Joe, as well, for moderating. Before I begin, I just wanted to share a little bit about who we are. So we're a global skincare retailer that began as a New York-based apothecary founded in 1851, and we place a big focus around the service that we offer in our stores. We have not advertised since 1851 and rely heavily on our word of mouth coming from our patrons. This is why the role of our associates plays such a vital part within our organization. For Kiehl, one of our biggest opportunities was how to better serve our omnichannel customer. We know that a minority of our customers are true omni customers, but we also know that they're spending almost 50% more than any of our mono-channel customers. So how can this be accomplished? Well, to start, we identified the need for an omnichannel associate, and this slide really demonstrates our vision. First off, how do we get our store teams connected with the customer that is shopping online? Second, how do we give our in-store customer a platform to engage with their stores when they arrive home? Third, how can we give our customers and KCRs applications to shop and engage together online? And finally, how can we get our associates to develop better relationships with our in-store customers? So I'd like to show you what we did for Kiehl. We deployed the Salesfloor Connect widget, which connects the customer with their geo-targeted local store, or even the option to communicate with any store across Canada. From this, we've seen an increased conversion rate on Kiehl.ca, and not to mention the creation of strong relationships with our local stores, driving traffic to them as well. So here's a typical customer journey. In this case, the customer sees the Salesfloor Connect widget with photos of real-life associates in their local stores. I think what's important to note, to mention here, is that these are not call center employees. These are actual real-life associates. The customer then connects with the local store via the widget. And here you'll see the customer asking one of our skincare experts for an anti-aging moisturizer and getting a recommendation. The customer then has the ability to purchase the product straight from the site, and the store would get credit for the sale. The other option is for the customer to come later to finish their transaction in one of our freestanding stores. We also see that each of our freestanding stores now has their own online presence. The advantage to this is twofold. First off, customers can now shop online directly with their local store, having all the same options as in store. And second, each store has the opportunity to curate local content, whether they want to highlight newness or even customer favorites. So here we're highlighting the journey of Jenny. Jenny is one of our KCRs that was serving a customer in store for 25 minutes. The customer was undecided and left the store. So in this case, obviously before leaving the store, Jenny has the ability to provide the customer with a recap of what was presented and can send it to the customer via email on Kiehl's branded asset. So we see that the customer now has the ability to continue her conversation at home with Jenny to ask any questions she may have following her consultation prior to purchasing. We also see that by shopping with Jenny from the Yorkdale store, another product grabs her attention based on comments from her local associate. As in all cases showed, any product sold, the credit will go back to the store. So another component of our omnichannel associate is giving them the tools to shop together and make it a positive shopping experience. Besides the live chat option, the KCR now has many shopping services at her disposal to engage with their local store. So whether it's booking an appointment or the ability to obtain a personal shopping service by providing their needs and allowing the KCRs to follow up with their customized skincare solution. So I'd like to highlight here another typical journey of a customer that is contacting one of our KCRs via live chat to find a cream that will reduce wrinkles and provide sun protection. In this case, the KCR was able to scan the appropriate product, include it directly in the live chat application, and of course, give the customer the opportunity to buy it directly from our .ca site. We also have clienteling tools that our teams can use. It gives the KCR the opportunity to develop deep relationships with our customers that are maybe not live physically in our store through fully branded templates once again. So in this case, the KCR is featuring a new product that has just arrived in store. Again, in this case, whether the customer decides to buy online or in store, the store would get full credit for it. And finally, we have the journey of Jenny, our KCR reaching out to her customer on a one-to-one message, communicating to her the potential need of replenishing her product based on her 3-month purchase date. Once again, she's including the photo of the product, which she can purchase online or in store. Again, focusing on the fact, how important one-to-one messaging is with our customers. We also see another example here where we are featuring the opportunity for our teams to reach out to their customers on a one-on-one message to communicate store-specific local events. So here we see the grand opening of one of our new stores, and we see here Jenny is contacting directly with her customer base to communicate this event. So currently, the process is quite manual, but we are looking forward to the opportunity in launching task automation in the next few weeks, which will allow our teams to create business rules when to reach out to their customers. So obviously, like any other program that we implement, you obviously need to be able to measure the return on investment. And of course, this is what we need to be asking ourselves. First off, are we driving sales? Are our customers using these new tools, and are we receiving requests? All right. So for us, it wasn't just just an extra piece of technology that's just lying on the counter. We just need to make sure, obviously, that the customers and our teams are using them. Are we seeing incremental sales and conversion since we implemented Salesfloor services? Are our teams more engaged by using the technology to better serve our customers? And given that our store teams can market to their local customer, does this have immediate value? And finally, through our interactions, have we acquired new customers? So as you can see, the omnichannel customer is a big priority for Kiehl's. Our in-store teams and the service we offer is a key differentiator, and we continue to look at tools like Salesfloor to be the perfect bridge in reaching our objective. I want to thank Oscar and Joe for having me as part of this webinar, and I give it back to Joe to conclude.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Oscar. So we now have some time for questions from the audience. If you want to submit a question to Oscar and Jason, you can do so. I have some questions already in the queue to get started, but you can continue to add your questions as we go here. The first question I have here is for you, Jason. It is, what has been the reaction from Kiehl store associates to the new clienteling tools that they have at their disposal?
Joe, you know what, I have to say, it's been extremely positive. They love that they now have the ability to be more entrepreneurial and use the technology at their disposal to build even stronger relationships with their customers while the customers are not physically live in the store. especially given the challenge of decreasing mall traffic, it also gives them the ability to drive footsteps to their stores on slower traffic days.
Joe, I can also add to that as well, so you have a view from our other clients. One of the big things that make the associates very happy about this is they don't feel that they're losing sales anymore to the showrooming customer. People who come in, they spend a lot of time, and then when they leave the store, there's no way for them to complete the transaction. So with each store having their own storefront, and in some cases even each associate can have their own storefront, they are open for business 24/7. They don't work 24/7, but they're able to transact 24/7, whether their customer is across the country or in their neighborhood. They're open for business 24/7. And the other thing that we hear very often from associates is they're no longer limited to the inventory in the store. They can sell whatever is in the .com assortment, which is usually much, much greater. And so that they feel that they have a much better assortment, especially the smaller stores, that allow them to better serve their customers and generate sales. And we've been told by our retailers that this has become a recruiting and retention tool for them, because associates are basing some of their decisions on where to work based on the technology and the tools and their ability to generate revenue and income. So just wanted to share that from some of our other retailers as well.
Yeah, great points. And that endless aisle aspect to it is one that was really interesting. So another question we have here for you, Jason, is how long and what is the training process like to get store associates using the solution from Salesfloor rather?
So, Joe, I have to say, obviously, like any other new tool, there's always a period of adaptation. I would say the fact that we piloted in specific stores really allowed us to iron out some of the kinks and ensure the program was successful. The tool's very user-friendly. I would say the challenge is more operational, really in ensuring that the teams are bought into it and understanding how it really benefits them directly.
Okay, we have another question here from an attendee, another one for you, Jason, in specific to Kiehl's. What has been the reaction of Kiehl's in-store customers to the clienteling tools that your store associates have? And the attendee specifically wants to know, has there been any pushback or concern that it's a little too big brotherish or creepy that the company and the store associates know so much about shoppers when they enter your stores?
Actually, you know what's funny is actually we noticed the complete opposite. And due to the nature of our high-touch service, in analyzing our customer journey, our customer actually shared with us the frustration they had in the sense that we had so much information on them and we weren't really doing anything with it. So with Salesfloor, we now have the ability to use this data to better serve our customer, whether they're physically in store or even at home. So it's actually quite the opposite. They really didn't feel the big brotherish part of it. They actually felt that we were now using this data to better serve them.
This question is kind of a good correlation to the previous one. Maybe it was better asked before that. What are the types of customer data that Kiehl's is collecting, both online and in store, that are enabling it to create these seamless omnichannel shopping experience that you've talked about?
So again, obviously we collect a lot of different information. I would say, there's certain information that we consider as to be the non-negotiables. So obviously like first name, last name, email, postal code, gender, and obviously date of birth. A big one for us is RFM, which stands for recency. So how recent did the customer purchase, the frequency, how often they purchased, and of course, how much they spend, so the monetary value. And obviously, we want to know if they, what platform they're using, so whether it's retail or e-commerce for purchase, and of course, the items they're purchasing.
Okay, I have another question here for you, Jason. One of our attendees asked, internally, this solution can be seen as reducing sales figures traditional web store teams feel would be their sales. Did you have any difficulties implementing this and sort of dealing with that challenge of sales attribution? And then if so, how did you overcome this and get everyone on board, kind of the web team versus your in-store teams?
So, and I think, Joe, this was actually really key for us, for our in-store teams to be engaged with this new technology. When we piloted the program, our associates were originally not compensated for the online sale through the Salesfloor technology. There was really a feeling of the store versus e-com, which for us was a big issue. And obviously, if we want to be able to really consider that customer to be an omni-channel customer and not a store or e-com customer, as soon as we started to compensate the associate, we noticed a real turnaround, and our teams really started treating the customer as omni customers, and they also understood how it really facilitated the customer journey. I think what's important to note here is there was a big part that was incremental, and if we look at a lot of our KPIs, we saw that our average basket size was 10% higher with the help of the associate. We also saw that any marketing campaign that was specifically sent from our store teams rather than Kiehl.ca had almost double the open rate and conversion rate. So we started seeing a lot of great KPIs increasing. But once again, it was really important that we compensate our teams and really make them understand the holistic view of the omni-channel customer and not being a store versus e-com customer.
Oscar, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think, we've had that discussion almost in every single boardroom meeting. I would say, hearing everyone's feedback as well as my own views, first from a philosophy perspective, if you're going to serve an omni-channel customer, as a retailer, you can't worry anymore about online sales versus in-store sales. You've got to serve the customer how they want to shop and how they want to be fulfilled. So retailers are creating omni-channel P&Ls to make sure that internally the organization is giving the right credit. So the stores definitely need credit when they're converting somebody, and e-com needs credit as well when they're bringing traffic to a site that's getting converted. So our retailers are developing omni-channel P&Ls to address that. Jason's point is very valid. The web store team, they're not worried about sales being attributed from their site to the store because they are seeing higher conversion rates, higher average sale, and they're seeing first-time buyers buying more than people who don't use Salesfloor, because all of these anonymous customers who come online and would have just left are now meeting their local associate and converting for the first time for the brand. So there is a very strong argument for incremental. And then the last point I would share is the use case that Jason described, where there's a web shopper on the corporate e-com site, is only one of three use cases. Many of the touch points with Salesforce starts in-store with the in-store customer. So like Jason described, that showrooming customer who's undecided and is about to leave, they now know that they can go home and still finish their purchase. So a lot of revenue is coming from the in-store customer, and it had nothing to do with the .com shopper and e-com team. And the same thing with all the clienteling activities. When the store manager at a Kiehl store reaches out one-to-one to a customer and says, hey, you might need a refill from what you bought 60 days ago, that has nothing to do with the .com web store traffic. So that's how I would view those different points of view.
And I think just to add to what Oscar's saying is we're trying to, Joe, even take it a step further. So right now, the way we're set up is we give our stores their sales objectives. We're actually going to be creating omni-channel sales objectives. So rather than looking, at it at store versus e-com, the stores will now have a percentage of, whether it's an e-com sale or a store sale, it'll all go to the same place. So to Oscar's point, really treating it, full P&L, whether it's store or e-commerce, it's really it's the Kiehl's customer overall. So I think there's a real shift there.
I have a kind of follow-up that's based on this conversation. Does the team at Kiehl's have any idea what percentage of purchases using, and this I guess can go to Oscar as well, using the Salesfloor tool are made online versus in-store?
So we've actually done some studies with our retailers. Maybe I can answer that before Jason.
Yep.
So what our retailers have done across a few different verticals is there's no way to measure in-store. That's the holy grail, obviously. But they knew that they're not just converting online, they're serving customers online, and that customer is going to buy in-store as a result just as much as online. Salesfloor, in great detail tracks online purchases because it's doable. For in-store, the retailer had, for a 90-day period, every one of their Salesfloor associates track receipts in-store that they felt were directly related to the store reaching out, to the integration on the .com, Salesforce Connect, etc. And what we found is for every $100 tracked online, $68 was sold in-store. So you can see that roughly a third of the impact of serving your customers online is ending up in your store. And we did that study across 2 different retailers, and in both cases we had similar results. And then the other thing is you have a lot of associate surveys that our retailers do across hundreds of associates. And they ask the question, do you think this is, driving traffic back into the store? And the associates overwhelmingly say that when they are meeting new customers online or reaching out to customers through the clienteling tools, they are definitely seeing them back in store. But this way, there's some context. They know what the associate and the customer have been talking about. A lot of times the customer is saying, after an online conversation, great, can you put this aside for me? I'm coming in store. So we have a lot of examples like that where there's evidence that this is ending up back in store.
And I think to what Oscar's saying as well is, it's not, for us, yes, that's one of the things that we noticed at the beginning is, obviously Salesfloor, the reports that we receive from them is tracking mostly the customer that's shopping online. But looking at, there's other tools that, it's not just serving the online customer. Through the clienteling tools that we now have, so the technology that we now give into our in-store teams, we're also able to really work that AUS, that basket size, for the in-store customer. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there's, so for us, it's a smaller part. But also just to add what to what Oscar was saying is we've also just recently added a button on our register so that we can track all the customers that are coming in following their interactions with Salesfloor. So that's also going to be very interesting for us to track. And the other thing, obviously, is for us, it's not just purchases, and it's not just the whole clienteling aspect, but to what we said before, it's also the customer acquisition. That's a big part where we're seeing, and everybody kind of puts a different dollar value to that, but we're saying that we would pay in certain cases anywhere between $20 to $40 or somewhat to pay for it to get a new customer, where Salesfloor is giving us the opportunity to get a lot of new customers. So that's also a big value for us.
So we have another question here from an attendee, and I'll open this one up to both of you. The question is, what are the metrics retailers should be measuring to evaluate the effectiveness of their clienteling tools?
So we have a bunch of indicators, and we present them to retailers, and each one has something different that they pick from because it has more to do with their customer journey or not. But I would say very clearly, what is the open rate when an associate is reaching out to a customer? And I know across all our verticals, our open rate is about double the national newsletter open rate, which kind of makes sense because you're getting it from a real person in your local store who's reaching out with a more personalized, comment and offering versus a national newsletter. We look at the click-through rate of those communications to see how engaged the customer is with what's being said to them. We also look at the amount of requests that are coming in from the online shopper to the store. So we measure exactly, per day, per month, how often is a customer online, and choosing to connect with a local store and ask questions about product, inventory, put things aside for me, and just overall get served online like they would in store. And then there's also, like Jason just mentioned, there's an in-store indicator. So when the associate is armed with the right information in the palm of their hand, and a customer is looking for a recommendation, by looking at purchase history and customer insights. So what is their average sale? What products do they like to buy? What brands? What categories? It allows an associate to make a more educated recommendation to the customer instead of starting from scratch. And that's no more relevant than when the customer is not in store. You know, when the customer is in store, you generally want to have a conversation with them versus looking at a screen. But when a customer is online and they're asking you something, a recommendation, that's where the associate really does need to see customer purchase history and statistics about that customer so that they can have a relevant recommendation. So that's another indicator is how are the tools that the associates have with information on the customer helping us better serve the customer and drive sales.
So just, if I could just add to Oscar's point, Joe, I mean, I think everything that Oscar mentioned, so whether it's the click-through, whether it's the open rate, we have in store, we measure AUS and items per transaction, conversion. But I would say that if we're really looking at it, to where we started this presentation, we're looking at it as an omni-channel retailer. I'm going to go back to what I said previously. For us, it's really RFM in terms of the omni-channel customer. So not the store customer, not the online customer. Like, it's what's the recency, what's the frequency, and how much are they spending? So with this tool, it's helping us increase all of these key indicators.
Okay, we have another question here. In one of the previous answers, Oscar spoke a little bit about opening up the inventory that these store associates have access to. They're not limited to what's within their four walls. So this question is kind of builds upon that a little bit. It says, how does this solution from Salesfloor impact other areas of a retail organization? Jason, you could speak to Kiehl's. Oscar, maybe you could talk not specific to Kiehl's, but across all your clients, particularly around inventory and fulfillment and even marketing, some of the marketing pushes. So do you guys have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I want to say that, like any other retailer, stock issues happen. Sometimes we're out of stock on specific key SKUs that, sometimes our website has it and our store doesn't. So I would say in terms of stock availability, to the point that Oscar mentioned before, that was a big one for us, is that the teams are not limited to selling what's physically in their store. They're able to sell something and be able to also. We've also provided some free shipping codes to customers, not to disappoint any customers. So if a customer comes in store, and orders obviously through the .ca, well, normally there are some shipping fees associated with that. So we're giving our teams we're empowering them with free shipping codes. So that's also helped. And I think, even though we don't have official click and collect, it's given us the personalized technology of bringing click and collect to our stores, so they can now connect, as you saw previously in some of the slides. They can connect with their local store using Salesfloor, and then they can check if the product's physically in stock. Sometimes, we've noticed that, and we see that with Amazon, and forget about next day delivery, same day delivery. Well, a lot of our customers sometimes unfortunately they wait until the last minute and they don't, and they realize that they're out of their face cream and they don't have time to wait, obviously for the product to get shipped. So that's been a great opportunity for the customer to connect to their local store, find out if the product's in stock, and then be able to pick it up the same day, with our store teams putting it aside. So that's really kind of changed the way we think in terms of our organization.
Here's a question for Oscar. in addition to Kiehl's, what are some of the other retailers that are using clienteling tools from Salesfloor effectively? And in addition to kind of identifying those retailers, some thoughts on why they've been effective and successful.
Sure. Well, so we deal with a lot of luxury retailers, so Sachs, Bloomingdale's, Lord & Taylor, Stuart Weitzman, Harry Rosen, for example. We deal with baby and toys, so Toys R Us and Babies R Us is our client. We deal with beauty customers. We have single brand customers as well, not just department stores like Ann Taylor and Ralph Lauren. And I think if we had to look at what we've been able to validate over the last 2 years is this is not just about one niche vertical, i.e. luxury or not. This is not about commissioned associates or non-commissioned associates. And it's not just for your top performers. This has really become, the tool for the average associate to just serve their customer online as they would in store, because that's their job. It's to serve customers. And just because the customer is shopping in a different way doesn't mean the associate should be excluded. So I think in general, the main requirement for someone to benefit from a tool like Salesfloor is that you want to provide a certain level of service. If you are selling toothpaste, you don't really need a clienteling tool. But if you have a certain requirement where your customer needs some help, whether you're buying furniture or you're buying consumer electronics, if you just need the benefit of an associate to help you in your purchase, then there's a lot of value for a clienteling tool. And that is the number one thing that retailers are using to differentiate themselves. Because if they just went on logistics and price and convenience, they will lose that game to Amazon. And so they really want to focus on service. If you want to focus on service, you got to serve the customer the way they are now shopping. And those associates need to be omnichannel associates the way the customers are omnichannel.
Okay, we have another question here. So the attendee says that adding technology platforms to their business has always been a big ordeal, and wants to know what's the level of effort required in terms of people and money to get Salesfloor up and running.
So I think that's probably one of the reasons you've seen a lot of traction in the last 2 years. Traditionally, this attendee is correct. If you're talking to the oracles of the world and you want to implement a system, you're probably looking at over a year of implementation, very large upfront costs. Most likely there will be a lot of delays, and it's just a very daunting and scary experience. And retailers tend to push that year to year. Salesfloor is a SaaS solution, so the platform is already built. Everything that is customer facing, so you saw the storefronts from Kiehl, the templates that are the emails, the embedded widgets on the site, they're all customized for each retail brand. So there is some customization work, but really the platform is the SaaS. So we're up and running within 5 to 6 weeks. Most of that work is actually on Salesfloor to customize the customer-facing elements. The retailer has very minimal IT integration. Things like give me your product catalog and put a tag in your tag manager. So we made it super easy for the retailer to implement, very quick, and there's no giant upfront cost because there's a year of development. It's really a SaaS, a fee per store or a fee per associate per month, and you're up and running. So most of our clients can, within a 6-week period, get a few hundred associates on it. Then they learn from it over a certain period of time, they perfect it, and then they continue to roll it out as they see fit throughout their chain.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, whether you've seen a lot of instances where a retail chain will test it in some pilot stores, have gotten the results that they were hoping for, and then rolled it out to the rest of their network of stores.
Well, a few stats we're very proud of is 100% of the people that have tried Salesfloor have led to national rollouts. 100% of them have increased their spend and added it to more users, and 100% of them have renewed. So I think we have, over the last 2 years, really proven the ROI. In the beginning, we did do a lot of pilots because it was brand new and people didn't really know what this was. But I think now, for example, if you're in apparel and you see many of the top luxury and mid-tier apparel retailers doing it across thousands of associates, we have over 10,000 associates using our platform. The need for trials has really gone down, and more what we see is retailers rolling it out with an initial wave of associates, and then once they see that this is successful and they've figured it out, then they continue to add as they need.
So we have a follow-up question to that, Oscar, and Jason, feel free to jump in if you have any thoughts you want to add. Are there any results or figures that you can show that this tool from Salesfloor is driving incremental business and that it's not necessarily just shifting sales from one channel to another?
Well, I think part of the metrics that I mentioned before, and that's where you could see is for us, I mentioned the 10% increase on our Kiehl.ca average basket size. So that for us was completely incremental. Without going into all the figures because I can't necessarily divulge all that information. But and even the open rate, we saw two times the open rate on Kiehl.ca emails. So that for us is completely incremental. Another thing that we noticed, key KPI, is our conversion. We saw twice. I know you're hearing a lot of twice, but it's actually true metrics. Twice the conversion on Kiehl.ca. So I think all of these are really proving that it's really incremental. We're also seeing that the frequency of our customer is shopping with us more often because of the clienteling tools, and the as hard as it was at the beginning for our teams to get engaged, because of the compensation structure, but now that we got that out of the way, we're seeing that the store teams are loving the technology and really being able to use that technology to really get the customer to come in more often, whether it's to communicate that a product's back in stock, or whether we have a new product that has just been launched, or whether we have an animation that's going on. I think the key thing here is that and that's why when I introduced myself, I was talking about the fact that we're very much a high touch service, and I think our customer obviously they feel like the communication that they're getting is really personalized, and that's making them come back. So there's a big part of what we're seeing is fully incremental.
Great. Well, that's some powerful testimonial there that really the incremental business that Salesfloor is helping to drive for Kiehl's. So we're just about out of questions, so I want to take this opportunity now to thank Jason Steiner of Kiehl's, as well as Oscar Sachs of Salesfloor, for offering their insights on the evolving omnichannel retail industry. I also want to thank the host of today's webinar, Salesfloor. Lastly, I want to thank you for attending. And finally, if you want to know more about Salesfloor, you can schedule a lunch and learn to learn about new product features and proven results. You can do that by contacting Salesfloor at sales@salesfloor.net. So I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation and has a great day. Thanks, everyone.